Hi, everybody. I'm Tim Constantine from the Washington Times, joined as I always am by my good friend for America. He's Dave Bozell. Hi, Dave.
Hey, Tim, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing great. You know, the president took office, and I laughed. When I was a kid, you had a 24-hour news cycle. Your newspaper appeared on your doorstep every morning around 6 or 7 a.m., and you would have to wait until tomorrow to get the fresh newspaper. If you couldn't wait for news at 6:30 in the afternoon, 6:30 early evening, you could tune in to CBS or ABC or NBC and get 30 minutes of news. That was it.
Ugh,
You had a news
gross.
cycle that had a definition to it. Today, there is no definition. The news cycle is like 4 minutes. So there's a new story every 4 minutes, and people go into a panic. Coming with that is a lack of perspective. People are so close to whatever's going on. They're not looking at what's going to happen a day from now, a week from now, a month from now. And so it's with fascination I have watched the appointment process. The president of the United States picks people for a variety of positions, his cabinet positions and others, with the advice and consent of the United States Senate. And some of these appointments as they came out were, oh my God, henny penny, the sky is falling. And yet, with one notable exception, they're all cruising on through. Let's talk about where things stand right now.
They're cruising through, but it is the slowest piece of the transition thus far, and people have taken notice of this. I think today Kash Patel is going to get advanced out of committee. He should be brought to the floor immediately for his confirmation. But wait, hold on for a second. We've got about 20 senators who want to go to Munich for a security conference for a 4-day weekend. So we have to wait until next week. And so it's just, there's a lot of senators that are sort of co-captains of the No Work on Friday caucus. And so they tend to sort of gum up the wheels a little bit. Now, I think President Trump is, aside from Matt Gaetz right out from the jump, he is a perfect, he's batting 1,000 here on his confirmation. So at the end of the day, getting these guys through is all that matters.
Let's talk about a couple of the particular appointees. Tulsi Gabbard, who, of course, was a Democrat.
Yeah.
I think what I like, I got to share this with you before we go too far down this road. There are issues I disagree with Tulsi Gabbard on.
Yeah.
But what I like is the way she stood up to Hillary Clinton and the Clinton machine. Tulsi Gabbard was a young, up-and-coming Democratic congresswoman that was very popular behind the scenes. Everybody thought, oh, she's the future of the party.
Yeah.
She was vice chair of the Democratic Party when Hillary Clinton quite literally took it over and said, at that time, little history lesson for you, the Democrat were millions of dollars in debt. And Hillary said, we'll take it over. We'll take care of the money. But here's what's going to happen. We're going to run it. We're going to change the rules for the delegates. We're going to mess with Bernie Sanders, and we're going to move on. Tulsi Gabbard didn't like the way that all unfolded. She spoke up and ended up resigning from her position as vice chair and took the wrath, to this day, takes the wrath of Hillary Clinton. So somebody with backbone, I have the utmost respect for.
Yeah. The only thing that concerns me about Tulsi Gabbard is there's not a whole ton of policy synergy between Tulsi Gabbard and Donald Trump. Now, in her position as Director of National Intelligence, there doesn't really have to be. The job description is essentially as follows: coordinate the 17 different intel agencies, three, 4-letter agencies, coordinate their efforts together. But what I think what happens at the DNI spot, that position, I think what's happened over the years, and I think the country is still too murky, unsure about what this position is doing. The job description, as I said, states that they're supposed to be coordinating the activities of these agencies. But oftentimes I think it's just, it just ends up being one singular person who just knows what they're doing. And there's a difference between the two. I'm not so sure. I think what really steamed President Trump during the 2020 re-election campaign was, how is it that 51 intelligence community members got together and signed this letter, made all sorts of headway with their allies in the press, and it ended up being a total fabrication, signing letters saying that the Russian disinformation was behind the Hunter laptop story. You would think that the director of national intelligence, and I have a whole ton of respect for the first Trump administration, but you would have thought that the director of national intelligence at the time would have been tougher in refuting the contents of the letter. And they weren't. And it just sort of, and the Trump White House just sort of, I think, mistakenly let it fester and let it gain credibility that it didn't have and didn't deserve to have. So I kind of do wonder as to whether or not if that sort of an attempt is made by bureaucrats within the IC community, if that attempt is made again, will Tulsi Gabbard be aggressive in dispensing with it from her chair, or will she be more bureaucratic and just let the political process play out? That's an open-ended question for me.
And I think that's a fair question, but I think, as I said, the history is if she'd speak up against Hillary Clinton at a moment where everyone thought Hillary Clinton was going to be the next president of the United States, I think she's got some backbone and will probably speak up if the John Brennans of the world try to distort information. All right, let's go to Bobby Kennedy. Bobby Kennedy there were some interesting hearings here and people railing against him. And yes, you said this and you said that, some of which he did say.
Yeah.
And yet, ultimately, Kennedy gets confirmed.
Yeah. Not a fan of some of his more liberal positions, particularly on the Second Amendment. He's been very, very vocal about how anti-Second Amendment he really is. But he's sort of
I got to correct you there. I met with Bobby and I asked him that point blank. I got it on tape. I said, hey, but he said, Tim, I wouldn't change anything about the Second Amendment.
Yeah.
So I know he said that 10 or 12 years ago, but right now he says something completely different.
Right. And I'm not a fan of what he said 10 or 12 years ago, and I am a fan of what he said now. So he's walked some of that back, which is great. I'm a big fan of converts. Okay. They can be the most convicted. And so I'm a huge fan. So kudos to him on that. I'm excited about what he can do at HHS. I think that agency is a huge morass. I think there's a lot of corruption there that we're not, that I think DOJ hasn't really set its sights on yet. That I think you'll see. I know that a lot of grant recipients from HHS are worried about cancer research grants. I think all those things will all continue. One of the big things, one of the more underreported elements of Trump's campaigns, plural, is that when you run a public approval metric in real time during the debates, a lot of focus group operations will do this. His highest marks are when he talks about the quantity of vaccines given to children. That's when his numbers go through the roof. And that is, as a parent, I am most interested in getting a fresh set of eyes on. I've had three kids. They're coming in. They're high schoolers or coming into high school. I've gotten most of the shots that I was told to get. But man, oh man, do you feel uneasy about walking in and out of doctors' offices with little infants, having to get shot after shot after shot after shot.
Dave, what's the number one line, meaningless line, that politicians say, whether it's local, state, or federal? The number one meaningless line is, it's for the kids. It's for the children. Whatever their issue is, they want a new sales tax locally. Yeah, but it's for the kids. They want something federally. It's for the kids. And mentally, we all want the best for our kids, of course. Okay. And you are spot on in that if you simply buy, hey, we have good intentions for children. And I think that's what anyone who promotes the vaccines, we want our kids to be healthy. We want that. Everyone understands we want the best for our kids. But the problem here is, and we saw this during COVID, is there was a push by the big pharma companies that wanted every kid in America vaccinated against COVID, for example. Now, when you look statistically, and I don't know what the number ended up being, but after the first 3 years, it was something like 174 children aged 0 to 18 had died from COVID. Every single one of them had a pre-existing condition, either cerebral palsy or some sort of lung problem or something. There were literally 0 healthy American children had died from COVID. So that told me Big Pharma was more concerned about the dollar than they were about the science. And if they would do it with COVID, I think that raised the question in everybody's mind, okay, wait a minute. What's the science on all these other vaccines? When I was a kid, there was 2 vaccines, two shots. Now, how many do your kids get? It's crazy. And then they want another one when they're they get one when they're 2, they got to get the booster when they're 6. And I think it's a fair question. The science may be there, but it wasn't for COVID. So the idea that Kennedy's going to go in and raise that question and get some answers, I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, and first order of business for me is if the emergency use authorization for Pfizer and Moderna vis-a-vis COVID is still in existence, I would gut that. These guys, these massive corporations have near total immunity with regards to the administering of these shots. I think that was a huge mistake, granting them total immunity, at least keeping that immunity standard for as long as it's been kept. So that would be the first order of business. And I would really try to clear. People want the truth about COVID. The CIA has released some stuff that, okay, so it's more than likely that it came from Wuhan. Okay, well, tell me something I don't know. Jon Stewart helped us figure that out on late night television in his famous viral clip. So I'd like some more sunlight on COVID, its origins, and the American response. I know President Trump is very proud of how he marshaled that vaccine. I know he probably doesn't like talking about it much now because he basically gets booed at rallies when he does bring it up. But I know in his mind, in his administration's mind, they saved tens of thousands of lives. Now, it is very tough to look somebody in the eye who believes that and tell them that they're wrong. And so he kind of tends not to bring it up anymore. But I can continue to be very complimentary on how he marshaled U.S. federal response, but I would like some sunlight as to the dollars and cents vis-a-vis these companies, the immunity standards, the emergency use authorizations, legitimate casualty counts, because I don't think those have been correct at all. So those types of things I hope Bobby Kennedy gets his hands dirty with.
Let me float one final question to you on the issue of appointments, and that is Trump has a Republican Senate. So many of these votes are going 53-47. If Trump did not have a Republican Senate, what would happen? I mean, it seems like no matter who I understand there's some controversy around Bobby Kennedy and what he may have said about vaccines. That I hear. But some of these folks are not controversial at all, in my mind. They are good people. You might disagree with them politically on something, but you still think they're intelligent, they're honest, they have integrity. Okay. In the old days, that would have been a 96-3 vote with one person wandering the halls, But now every single Democrat opposes virtually every single appointment. So what would happen to government if the Democrats were in charge of the Senate right now? Would they simply just keep turning everyone down and there would be no government?
Yeah, I believe they would. In fact, I think this country would have to have a serious conversation with itself about, do we continue to allow the Senate to even have advise and consent power? Because you can see, Republicans have played ball with the Biden administration. They voted for his nominees, much to the chagrin of a lot of us. But the Democrats don't play ball at all. And it's going to come to a point, Tim, where Republicans don't play ball. And so the shoe will be on the other foot. And I just wonder why we have this advise and consent process with the Senate. And the cabinet's grown to, 14 now?
106.
That, not to mention the ambassadors, the sub-agencies, and the sub-agencies below them. The Senate confirms them all, and they're elderly. You've got the former majority leader falling down in hallways. Some of them don't show up for work. It's tough to get a vote even scheduled. I just don't know. We're a young country. We can make some changes. I don't know that having the Senate confirm basically all of the senior leadership of the executive branch is in the United States' best interest anymore. I think we can survive bad cabinets. We've survived bad presidents. We can survive bad cabinets without the Senate having to confirm all these guys.
My ambassadorship nomination has been slowed down.
Mine too.
Well, I'm not sure what's going on there. For America, he is Dave Bozell. I'm Tim Constantine. Dave, thank you, my friend. Always a pleasure.
Tim. Take it easy, buddy.